Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CBI monthly webinar. I'm Sam LaPrade, and I'm so happy to be here with all of you. And I don't know where you're joining from today, but we love finding out where everybody is coming from. I'm in Ottawa, which is Anishinaabe territory of the Algonquin people. I'd love to know where you're coming from. You can throw it in the chat there. We love to monitor that and see where everybody's joining from today. We have such an interesting topic on this chilly day here in Ottawa, but I think it's a really important one. We're going to be talking about the BIPOC Fellowship, of course, and the importance of diverse leadership. So we're looking at hearing from some wonderful guests that the CBI team has pulled together today. What's great about the format is that we have an opportunity for myself and of course the guests. We want to hear mostly from the guests to talk today. And then it's an opportunity to hear from all of you. So we look forward to that. It's probably some of the best questions we've had all year long have come from you. So we want that to continue today. So throw those in the Q&A. Our wonderful friend Hannah and Addie, our wonderful friends Hattie and Addie from of course CBI, the Capacity Building Institute, will monitor those questions, make sure that I get them when that opportunity comes up at about 4:45. We'll make sure to have 4:45 Eastern time. We'll make sure to have those questions posed to our wonderful guests today. I don't want to wait one more minute. I want to get to it. And the wonderful Addie is joining us. Hi, Addie.
Hi.
Addie's going to take it away and share a little bit about the Capacity Building Institute, spend some time with Addie, and then we'll be back and dive right into our topic today. Addie, take it away.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. My name's Aditi or Addie, and I'm the Outreach and Engagement Coordinator at Capacity Building Institute. And I'm just here to talk to you a little bit more about CBI. So CBI, or Capacity Building Institute, is an organization, it's a nonprofit organization under the umbrella of Sustainable Capacity Solutions. We provide training, coaching, mentorship to staff and volunteers in the environmental nonprofit sector across Canada. So our mission is to provide equal opportunity and access to capacity building training for every nonprofit and environmental leaders across the country. And we do this through 6 core themes. So we have financial management and fund development, governance and board development, volunteer engagement and human resources, communications and outreach, risk management and legal issues, and leadership and organizational culture. So these themes are presented through the number of programs that we offer. Right now, we're offering 2 programs. So the Capacity Building Webinar Series, which is a free monthly webinar series like the one you're attending today. And in these webinars, we have a number of different speakers and leaders in the nonprofit sector come here to talk about a variety of different topics. So our next webinar is going to be in the new year, and I hope to see everyone there. And then our flagship Capacity Building Certificate Program, we just wrapped it up for this year. And this is the program that we have. It's a boot camp for executives and senior managers in the Canadian environmental nonprofit sector. And this has 6 modules based on the 6 core themes that I mentioned earlier. So we're all done with that one for the year. And then lastly, we have the Youth Intern Training Program, which is a skills development and training program for youth between the ages of 18 to 30. This is perfect for any early professionals who are just looking to get into the sector and learn more about it. So our winter training program applicants actually just opened. So if you are youth or know of youth in your organization who could benefit from this program, I highly recommend that you go apply. The spots are limited, but you can use the QR code on the screen here to apply. I'm currently participating in the program myself, and it's been very, very beneficial for me. Also, if you're a nonprofit who could benefit from an intern or volunteer, you can also apply as an employer. And this is just a great opportunity to bridge the gap in your capacity while also providing opportunity for youth to gain experience. So we have a number of different trainers in our network. So we have Sam, who's hosting the webinar today, and then we have Rob Barnes, who has been in the sector for over 10 years, Barb King, who has been in the sector for 20 plus years, and she has a lot of experience in extensive management in the sector. Alex Keegan, who provides training and consultations on communication strategies. Dwayne Taylor, who has helped nonprofits for over a decade. So a lot of amazing trainers are part of our program, and they all have different specialties and a lot of experience in the sector. So lastly, we run a number of different programs and support over 150 organizations across Canada, and that would not be possible without our funders and supporters. So a big thank you to all of our funders and supporters for allowing us to deliver programs like this webinar. Before we get into today's webinar, I just want to give you guys the contact information for Hannah and I in case you want to reach out for any questions. So you can use this. And also the QR code for our newsletter. So our 2025 lineup will be published in our newsletter, and you can get updates for our webinars and other events, as well as other events in the community. So make sure to sign up for the newsletter. And I'm going to pass it back to Sam for the webinar.
Thank you so much, Addie. Wonderfully done as always. It's wonderful to have all of you here today. I'm really excited about today's topic. I think it's a really important one. Today is really focused on the BIPOC Fellowship, the importance of diverse leadership. To give you a sense, and we obviously want to hear from all of our wonderful guests today, but just to kind of kick us off today, I want to just tell you what the BIPOC Fellowship is. The BIPOC Fellowship fosters diverse leadership in the Canadian environmental nonprofit sector, addressing the underrepresentation of BIPOC leaders, particularly in senior roles. The fellowship offers funding to support BIPOC staff in senior positions, supplementing their salaries and advancing their projects. Participants benefit from resource sharing, networking, promotional opportunities through workshops, panels, quarterly roundtables. These forums encourage dialogue on the challenges and successes of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion within the environmental sector. So that's where we're going to leap off from today. Once again, we've got some wonderful guests joining us. I'm going to first introduce Nasha Choudhury. Hi, Nasha.
Hello. Hi, Sam.
There you are with that beautiful smile. So Nasha and I have worked together before in the past. Nasha, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll introduce each of our other guests today.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam, and thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Nasha, and I've been working in the environmental nonprofit sector for over 5 years now. It's been quite a journey. I joined the BIPOC Fellowship about 3 years ago. We launched in 2021, and I was nominated as a fellow, but I also was the co-chair of the fellowship and continue to be the co-chair. So it's my fourth year now running the program, and we have a lot of new exciting developments, and I'm looking forward to sharing those.
That's wonderful. We'll speak with you in a couple of minutes. I want to introduce, next up is Margaret Zou. Hi, Margaret.
Hi, so good to see everyone.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Margaret.
Yeah, so my name is Margaret. My pronouns are she and her. I am currently serving as the ED at Co-Author World Issue Center. We're a small charity based out of Peterborough, and we mainly work with youth, but we also lead some really great community projects. I've been in the sector for about 7 or 8 years coming up, and I am currently also one of the fellows at the BIPOC Fellowship Program, and very, very grateful and privileged to be part of that. And yeah, it's really great to be here.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Melody Lee, are you there?
Hi there. Yes, I am.
Hi, Melody. Nice to see you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Melody Lee, and I'm joining you today from Markham, Ontario. So a bit about me. Okay, so I completed my honors Bachelor of Science in Life Sciences from the University of Toronto, where I specialized in environment and toxicology and double minored in environmental science and physiology. Back in 2021, can't believe it's already 3 years now, but Yeah, it's been quite a journey for me. So after graduating from university, I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do with my life. However, this sort of uncertainty gave me the opportunity to explore a variety of roles and industries. So over the past 3 years, I've gained experience in areas such as student leadership and outreach, virtual facilitation, research, lead research, sales, frontline customer service, and administration. And so while I've had a fairly like non-linear career path, I would say, this exploration, like this chance to explore my career path has helped me discover where my true passions lie. And so um, now I believe that I've finally found my place in the environmental not-for-profit sector, and particularly in grassroots work. Um, I've always been really, really passionate about nature and tackling environmental and climate related challenges and issues. And so, and I've also realized that working in the not-for-profit space allows me to do work that is not only rewarding, but also meaningful and impactful. So, right now, I'm actually an intern with the Canadian Coalition for Green Healthcare, which is a national not for profit that is committed to advancing environmental sustainability and climate resilience in the Canadian healthcare sector. But beyond my current role, my previous role as student leader for the Awakening Project, which is a youth led group that focuses on social justice and faith issues, has really influenced my perspective and reinforced my belief that anyone, regardless of their background or skill set, can drive meaningful change within their community. So, and today I'm proud to say that I'm very honored to be a recipient of a $1,500 microgrant from the BIPOC Fellowship Program, Microgrants Program. Um, to support my project, which is titled Meals That Matter, which is basically a local food rescue initiative dedicated to promoting environmental sustainability and reducing our climate footprint by
Wow.
combating food waste while addressing food insecurity within communities. So yeah,
That's
I'm really
wonderful.
excited to see where my project's gonna take me. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Melody. I appreciate that overview. Moreira, are you there? There's Mars. Hi, Mars. How are you?
Hi everyone. Sorry I
Uh,
was a bit late to join you.
that's okay. We're so happy that you're here. Can you give us a brief overview of your work, and then we can dive into some of the questions?
Yeah, for sure. So I was, I think there's backstory to my work. I'm currently in the unceded lands of the Paraíba people in Brazil. That's where I'm from. And when I was 8 years old, there was a huge flood, and we had to like run away from home and like take all our belongings. It's crazy. And so the climate crisis was really present to me at a really young age. So then I went to study ecology and economics at UBC because I wanted to make the sustainable choice economically interesting. And so I've worked in nonprofit sector, private sector, government sector with research analysis, with desktop research, data analysis, community engagement, and now I'm working for Gitgap First Nation, doing regulatory engagement. And then I also founded a social enterprise called Dream Still, where we're tackling the textile waste issue. So
Oh,
that's me and my little project.
well, if I needed to check a box that I was going to be inspired after today's webinar, I'm already inspired, and it's only 15 minutes in. So it's wonderful to have all of you here and to share all of that. I gave us just to kind of kick us off today, I gave a brief overview of what the BIPOC Fellowship is, but I'd love to hear, Nasha, for you to talk maybe a little bit about it, as well as the microgrants opportunity. And we've had some notions of that already. Can you give us a brief overview from your perspective?
Sure, yeah. So since launching the BIPOC Fellowship in 2021, we've been able to expand across Canada and support fellows from multiple provinces. When we started, the idea was to support those in leadership positions, specifically in senior management or executive director roles. And so we did that for the first couple years, and that was great. And we had some really awesome fellows. And this past year, we were able to receive some new funding that helped us to launch the microgrants program. The idea with the microgrants program is that we can support more fellows through smaller contributions, but that help them to lead and launch their sustainability initiatives or projects. There's also a lot more flexibility in terms of who can be eligible for the microgrants program, being that it's not restricted to necessarily a nonprofit organization. So we have a variety of fellows working on all kinds of projects. Some of them are working on them independently. Some of them are working on them through an environmental organization or a business that they own or work with, which is really exciting because it really increases the variety of projects that we have, and they are really awesome projects. So we have 3 of the fellows out of the 7 new recipients that we were able to award this past fall, and so I'm sure they'll be excited to share their projects, and we'll definitely be promoting their projects and having a showcase at the end of the year to for them to be able to share everything they've done.
That's wonderful. Amazing. So we want to hear from all of you again today on basically the impact. What has been the impact of this grant, of the BIPOC Fellowship grant, and how has it, influenced your work? And maybe at the same time, kind of tying in how that has influenced your work, particularly when it comes to environmental work or sustainability projects. Maybe we'll go in the opposite direction. Mars, maybe we'll hear from you first, and we'll go the opposite way.
Yeah, sounds good. This is a really good question, Sam. I think right from the get-go, from like being invited to be part of the fellowship and the first roundtable we did, where Nasha was chairing that, I got value out of the fellowship just then and there, just hearing about everyone else's projects and then being able to be in this safe space and share the journey of being in the climate space and how it can be challenging and the things we've all faced this year. And so to find common ground to relate to other people in this space was really valuable. And the fact that the fellowship is enabling me to keep going with my project is also a huge impact.
Beautifully said.
Personally.
Yeah, thank you for that. Melody, how about you? What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts would be that this opportunity was a really good opportunity for me to actually be able to get to start something on my own, like start a project of my own, and by giving me the financial resources, or else that wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, very, very nicely said. And Margaret, what are your you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, I echo my fellow the speakers that went before me. I totally agree with what their thoughts are, and I want to echo that. And I think for me, it's given me the opportunity, and also the community that I work with, a lot of opportunities to work with youth, and we currently run this mentorship program, which is around intergenerational mentorship, where we pair up kind of seniors with youth, and this grant really goes to them to help them to create a narrative of their experiences and build on their kind of experiences throughout the program and allow them to do a bit of storytelling. So this grant is really not so much, say, the impact on me, but really allowing kind of the community and also a lot of the youth that are part of our community to actually carry out their kind of stories and build their narrative around climate change and how their experiences in mentorship and all those things. So it's invaluable for us to be part of this, and very, very grateful to be part of this fellowship.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Nasha, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, just building off of what Margaret said, I think, there is the idea that this will have a multiplier effect in the sense that by investing in these projects, by supporting these projects, and a lot of these projects do directly are inclusive of BIPOC communities, we have more representation in the environmental sector, and we have more opportunities for BIPOC communities to participate and to take action and to be celebrated and recognized. So I think it has sort of this exponential impact, and the more fellows we can include and the more projects they do and the more communities that they include in their projects, there's just a greater awareness of this initiative and the importance of this initiative.
Yeah, beautifully said again. I mean, when we talk about, challenges, it can sometimes be difficult, but I think whenever I see anybody speak, and I think today will be no different, that when you share your challenges, they feel a little bit lighter on you, but it also gives a lot of inspiration for those that might be listening. So in that vein, have you faced challenges as a BIPOC leader in your field? And if so, how did you overcome them? And any lessons that would be learned? Melody, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so although I do not yet have much experience as a leader in the environmental field yet, because I've just recently started, I'm only an intern. I guess I can speak to this question more broadly. So, one common challenge that many BIPOC leaders often face in navigating systemic barriers is they deal with a lot of like implicit biases and like many systemic inequities that sort of undermine or question the credibility of their voices. So, for example, I've heard of situations where the ideas or contributions made by BIPOC individuals um, get dismissed until they were echoed by someone from a more privileged group in society, so such as from a white colleague. And so although these experiences can be discouraging and isolating, like um, it does make it hard for BIPOC leaders to feel valued and confident when they make their contributions. So I guess to overcome these challenges, it's essential to build confidence in your own voice and perspective. So trusting that you have unique things to bring to the table and that they are valuable is a powerful way to push back against these biases. And personally, I think it's very important that everyone understands that diverse perspectives are not just valuable, but they are also like very necessary for when it comes to creating or coming up with innovative solutions to a whole bunch of problems in society and for the environment. And so yeah, so mentorship, I think it's a big thing where people if you seek guidance from people and who understands these challenges, it can actually really help you. And also less important is to like pay this forward. So if you mentor others and then they in turn mentor and then they feel supported and also like go on to mentor others. So just building this network of solidarity and creating environments where BIPOC leaders feel that they don't have to face these challenges alone. And last but not least, I cannot stress the importance of community. So success is not just about individual resilience, but also about creating systems of support and collaboration. So by uplifting one another and advocating for structural or systemic change, we can dismantle these barriers altogether that have historically excluded these individuals. So in this case, BIPOC individuals.
Thank you so much for sharing. A lot of insight in there, Melody. Thank you for that. Margaret, how are you feeling about this question? Any challenges that you faced?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a great question. And I think I've been in this sector for, I think, 7 or 8 years. And I think at each stage of that, I've had to overcome some challenges. And I've, been relatively new to my role as ED at my current organization. And I think one of the things I consistently, I think, experience, being a huge challenge is kind of the loneliness of being sometimes the only one within that organization. And sometimes, when I join an organization, there is very little representation within this sector. And, on different teams I've been at, I'm usually the only one, right? Only person of color. And I think that in itself is very difficult. And sometimes maybe I'm being self-conscious, but yeah, it is very hard to talk to somebody and to have support sometimes. And currently I am at a, slightly, I guess, in a leadership position, but it's still, I feel very much alone, where I think there isn't much, other folks that are like me that I could really connect with on a deeper level. But I think one of the really great things about the BIPOC Fellowship is that it allows kind of all of us to come together and across Canada and have, build this relationship together and have a deeper connection. And then, kind of really helps with this type of loneliness where you can speak to each other at the round table that, for instance, that Nasha led. And it's been a great opportunity to be part of that and feel really, accepted and connected and, welcomed into these spaces. And yeah, it's been a really, really great opportunity to be part of that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Nasha, do you want to add anything? And then we'll ask Mars.
Yeah, no, I'll just, echo what has already been said. I think those are some of the more prevalent challenges for sure, is that, yeah, sometimes not being heard or validated, or as Margaret talked about, the loneliness or the lack of relatability, or being the only BIPOC, whether it's on your staff or on the board or whatever it may be. And so, that's what we're addressing here, is that lack of representation more broadly. One of the other challenges I could think about is just tokenization. So I think oftentimes, if you are the one BIPOC or one of few BIPOC, sometimes there's this notion that the organization is diverse, but it's not diverse just because you're the one person there, or that your voice or your perspective, or that's the only representation of BIPOC or diversity in an organization. So just making sure that when we think about representation and diversity, we're expanding beyond just the tokenization of one or few staff to having diversity, part of the entire structure and modality of the organizations that we work for.
Yeah. Mars, your thoughts?
I think the three that went before me took the words out of my mouth. Not feeling heard, feeling lonely, feeling tokenized are definitely all things I've experienced. And I'll also add that sometimes how society responds to our intersectional identities is very nuanced and it's very subtle. And so sometimes it can be difficult, given like microaggressions or outright aggressions based on race and color that you've experienced. It might be difficult to like assert oneself as a leader, assert oneself as capable. And that's certainly a battle I've battled inside. And to be at a place today where I am in a leadership position is kind of crazy. Kind of like little me is rooting inside, being like, oh, you proved them all wrong. When they said because of the way your hair looked, the character you had to play in the school play was the maid and not the princess. Like you proved them all wrong. So
Wow. That last sentence, I mean, your whole, what you said, but the last sentence will stay with me for a very long time.
yeah, it happens. It's unbelievable. 2020, like 21st century, and this stuff still happens.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? It's not something that we've had on our list, but all sort of adding in the fact that we're women. Can I ask you to sort of talk about that? Because I think there's a lot of webinars that are happening, and to have all women today, was that something that was inspiring for you? Was that something that you were maybe not accustomed to as well? Maybe I'll ask Anash to respond.
Yeah, well, so actually in this sector and in the space I've worked, it's been wonderful to see so many women in leadership positions, but I know that historically and generally that it is, whether in the environmental sector or other sectors, a male-dominated space. So to see women in these leadership positions and to see BIPOC women in leadership positions is, of course, really exciting, and it's really nice to be here at a time where that's something that's more common, and that those leaders are recognized for their leadership and are also taken seriously. Of course, there's more work that can be done and more acknowledgement, and sometimes I worry that from the outside, maybe certain spaces or certain organizations in the sector with female leadership are not taken as seriously as they might be, and I can't verify that, but there's this sense that that's possible, just because sometimes it is dominated by women and women leaders. But I definitely appreciate that there is more space for us to take on those roles, but definitely more work that needs to be done in terms of, I think, being taken as seriously as like a male dominated sector or a male-led organization.
Can I just ask, is there anybody else that wants to add to that? We've got lots of great questions here. That was just kind of something that dawned on me as we were speaking, but is there anybody that would like to add anything that hasn't spoken already about that last question? Okay. Well, we'll move on. We've got lots of questions for you. Don't you worry. This is going by so fast. So let me ask, in terms of diverse leadership, and Margaret, maybe we'll start with you. Why do we think it's essential to have diverse leadership in the environmental sector? I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think it's not only essential in the environmental sector, but in all sectors. I think diverse leadership is essential, and I don't say that sort of lightly. I think we live in a world where it's full of different people, and it's really critical that we capture it in leadership, right? And nowadays we live in a world where we can fly to different countries within a couple hours, and it's becoming more globalized. So it's important that we work with those people and have those people at the leadership position to share their perspectives, their views. A lot of the times, I think having women of color, especially at the leadership level, we bring a lot of different things to the table because of our experiences, because how we've kind of absorb those things as we're growing up. And I think those skills, like, for instance, empathy, or skills that are soft skills that are essential for essentially for our survival growing up, is so critical at the leadership position. And I think that's the type of thing we want to capture moving forward.
Mm-hmm. You're wonderfully said. Melanie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I agree to what has been said by Margaret already. So definitely, yeah, particularly the fact that I think diverse leadership is essential for any sector. But so speaking to this question, so I think it's important to have diverse representation in leadership, because leadership is what shapes like all these policies, organizations, and communities. And so leaders who bring like different cultural, social, and lived experiences to the table can actually be the ones who will be able to better understand and address the needs of diverse populations. So, for example, diverse leadership leads to more, I think it leads to more better solutions to problems and more innovative solutions to problems, because it's able to draw from a variety of perspectives. And it also helps create spaces where underrepresented voices are valued and heard, which fosters a sense of inclusivity and trust. So, for example, as a BIPOC individual leading my project, so my Meals That Matter project, I understand the importance of partnering with a diverse range of businesses in order to ensure a good variety of meals and foods that are available for distribution to organizations as well as individuals within communities. And so representation ensures that leaders can identify and address these unique needs of the populations that they're serving. and that may otherwise be overlooked. And so, and it also matters because it inspires others in that when people see leaders who look like them, it empowers them to believe that they too belong in those spaces. And so without diversity in leadership, we risk perpetuating systems that exclude and overlook marginalized groups.
Yeah, wonderfully said. Let me ask you, Mars, are there any examples where your unique experiences as a BIPOC leader led to greater community engagement or innovative solutions? Is there anything that comes to mind when you think about, because of your involvement and your perspective, which is an important one, that there was some different outcome there?
Oh. Well, I think the biggest lesson learned from diversity, and this isn't like me speaking, it's like the frameworks used around the world for auditing big companies. It's like diversity will lead, is not only in the color of your skin, but it's also in thought and in lived experience. And so in having those, you're able to contribute differently. I think how this has played out for me, the more prominently has been once through my project, Dream Still, we applied for a community placemaking grant at the City of Vancouver, and we got this grant to host a climate action festival. And like these sorts of things happen. But the fact that like I was one of the lead partners involved, and my business partner, Kushi Kozla, is also a BIPOC woman, was another lead partner involved. I think in everyone that we hired to make this festival, and like mind you, this was a large scale festival, or mid scale, not so large. We had about 200 to 300 people attend. It was like everybody that was staff or that received an honorarium for their participation as a workshop host, as a panelist, whatever it was someone that was either BIPOC or a woman or in the LGBT community. Like we were making sure those people were given opportunities because we know how hard it was for us to get opportunities in the first place.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. How about you, Nasha?
Yeah, well, I definitely think that there's just so many wonderful ways that having more diversity on any team brings inspiration, motivation, productivity to a team. You have more perspective for sure. You have a different view to offer, different insights, different background, different history to offer. And I think that spurs new ideas and new ways to think. So I definitely agree with the idea that it's not just about how you look, but it's also, the background and the stories and the insight that you bring. So yeah, for all of those reasons, I think being part of a space that maybe traditionally wasn't diverse, but is now becoming more diverse, it just expands that space and allows for more things to happen and more ideas to come to life, which is really exciting. And especially in the environmental space where you might not have had those perspectives previously, and you just need more perspectives because the problem at hand is so large. And often will affect BIPOC communities. And so their voices and their perspectives should be heard and brought to the table.
And I want to remind everybody, thank you, Nasha. I want to remind everybody that we are open for questions in a couple of minutes. So throw those in the Q&A because you always ask the best questions. So we want to make sure to get those in here as well. But we do have a few more questions. And let's talk a little bit about those walls or those barriers, Melody, that are put up and it's hard to dismantle them. Did you find some of the work that you're doing through this BIPOC fellowship has given you some tools to maybe help dismantle some of those barriers?
Okay, so for my project, I guess it's still in its very early stages. So I guess I'm gonna speak to this more broadly. So in terms of like systemic barriers, I think there are quite a few that are common out there that really could prevent BIPOC individuals from like accessing these opportunities. So these include like implicit biases, unequal or like no access to like networking opportunities, and also lack of like mentorship opportunities. And so many leadership pipelines are not really designed with equity in mind. And so it favors those who already have privilege in society in terms of like their access to resources. And so like cultural stereotypes and microaggressions are definitely out there that can create hostile or unwelcoming environments for many BIPOC leaders, which could further discourage them from pursuing these roles. And so I think the BIPOC Fellowship Program can really help dismantle these barriers by providing support and opportunities for underrepresented individuals. And so by offering mentorship and networking opportunities, and also professional development opportunities and inclusive spaces for people to learn from and connect with each other, it equips leaders with the tools that they need to thrive, and empowers individuals, BIPOC individuals, to build that sort of confidence to navigate these systemic challenges. So these spaces are really important, like in terms of like networking and connecting with people who are like-minded, and to like foster diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workspace. And so yeah, so I also think the BIPOC Fellowship really empowers leaders, or to be leaders, actually, to address these issues such as climate change and environmental sustainability. So, for example, these microgrants, one thing that I can speak to like is that they definitely remove some of the financial barriers to launching a project, although like a lot of the projects do need a lot of the funds, a lot more funds than what the BIPOC Fellowship microgrants program can cover, but at least it often can provide enough funds to sort of get a project off the ground. So yeah, to start something that would not have otherwise been possible. And yeah.
Thank you so much. Margaret, do you have anything to add to the barriers to leadership in the case of what's being provided here with the BIPOC Fellowship Group? Is there any tools you've been able to sort of ascertain that help you move some of those barriers?
Yeah, and I think this grant has really given us the opportunity to move forward with our project, but also expand it to different youth, different areas of our community. So it has really helped us to reach those hard to reach underserved communities. So that's I think a great way to break down some of those barriers. But I also think connecting, for me personally, I think connecting with around, for instance, the roundtable is a really great example of this, is that I was able to connect with so many different BIPOC leaders and BIPOC individuals across Canada. And I think that itself gave me sometimes the courage and inspiration to speak up in situations where I think my voice may not be as strong. So I think about some of the conversations we had during the roundtable, for instance, and I kind of give myself a little kind of a pep talk, right? And sort of go into a board meeting, and I'm like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to say those things because there are others out there who are doing the exact same work as me and doing it better. And that gave me kind of that inspiration to really push forward.
I just got this visual, when I'm very visual person. So Margaret, I just got this visual of you at a board meeting, and like all of these people behind you cheering you on. So yeah, so that's
definitely
great.
feel that. I definitely feel
That's
that
great.
way
I love
with
that.
the BIPOC
That gave me
Fellowship.
chills.
Yeah, I know. I
The
just love
visual.
that. Love that. So we've got a great question that's come from the team here participating today, and it's a great one. So I'm going to pose this, and I'll ask Mars your thoughts. So the question is, I think a lot of teams have started to be more inclusive to BIPOC people by hiring more BIPOC individuals, but their team dynamic doesn't always create space for these individuals to succeed? How can an organization best create this space? Mars, I'll go to you first.
That is a difficult question. I don't know. I don't know how an organization can best create space to be more inclusive. I guess maybe just what is really meaningful to me is to be able to share my story and to be able to share practices of my culture, because it's not just, associated with color of your skin, but also culture. Like I said, I'm from Brazil. We store leftovers in like ice cream tubs instead of buying Tupperwares at Walmart. Um, and it's in the little things sometimes, just being able to share who you are authentically, and maybe reinforce. Another thing that's really valuable for me at workplaces is like check-ins, regular check-ins with supervisors or superiors, colleagues, whoever it may be. And in those, I think it's important to create reminders and like reaffirm the positives of the work someone is doing, and then remind them that they can share their thoughts, they can speak up. I have a internal policy of like no holding back, but not everyone does, and so that may be important.
Thank you for sharing. I'm just putting this out there because I do think that every organization that does a really good job at onboarding is an organization that's put thought into that culture piece. Is that, and just a dynamic of a culture workspace. Nasha, is that something that comes to mind for you in terms of onboarding, and then coupling that with what Mars said about that, those regular check-ins and creating that space? Is that part of your thoughts today?
Yeah, as soon as you said the word culture, that's what I grabbed onto, because I think it's about creating the organizational culture to create that space. And I think, it goes beyond just hiring. So, when I'm presenting about the BIPOC fellowship, I use this example about, you think about your hiring practices, but you have to go beyond them, right? And it's one thing to have a BIPOC, and again, that's almost like it's kind of a tokenization. You have a BIPOC person at your organization, but what are you doing at your organization to make them feel included, to make them feel that they're being heard, that despite their differences, that there's space for them to feel safe, and especially when they may be the only or one of a few BIPOC at the organization. And I think that comes from culture, and I think that comes from education and awareness. So I do think that boards and supervisors and management need to take the time to educate themselves about various cultures and how to make different people feel included, and also just to understand, people are coming from different cultures, so they might have different habits, they might have different ways of approaching work or approaching professional spaces. And so, when people might not behave in the way that's acceptable or seen as culturally appropriate, or what I'm trying to say, right? It's just it's to have that awareness and to give them that space to be themselves. And so in that way, feel safe and feel like that they're being included at the organization.
I had lunch with someone on Friday from the BIPOC community, and she said she's going to leave the organization that she's at because she never ever sees herself at the top of that organization. She doesn't feel like she has seen anybody from the BIPOC community at leading that organization. So she feels she needs to leave in order to lead. Margaret, does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's really unfortunate to hear, but I think again with that, representation and diversity at the leadership level is why this is so crucial, is that they, you know, for instance, I speak this solely on my own personal experience, but I personally would like to see somebody that looks like me, or somebody that is, with a similar background, or that are, at the leadership position, because then I can see, okay, this is actually possible. Whereas I think if all the leadership positions are given to a specific group of people, then I don't see the possibility, right? It's really hard for me to envision myself there a few years later. But yeah, that's definitely one of the challenges currently as well. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Melody, we have about 10 minutes left, so I want to get through lots of great questions here. And I'd love your thoughts, Melody, on the fellowship that's been created by the fellowship. So, the friendships and the professional relationships that you have through the BIPOC fellowship. Has that enriched you in terms of your career assertions?
Yeah, this opportunity was definitely a great opportunity for me to be able to lead a project of my own and to sort of, I guess, step out of my comfort zone and take something on and lead something, which is something that to be honest, I am not quite accustomed to because I am a relatively shy and a reserved person. And so it has really I guess, sort of encouraged me to take something on to be able to do something that really benefits the community. So.
Okay, really interesting. We've got a question. Mary Ann Hodge, I'm just reading through it here quickly, is posing a question, and it is, we are planning an annual festival and have an Indigenous community member on our board of directors. Is the chair of a committee on the organizing team, and we invite Indigenous artists and musicians to participate. Our experience is that the Indigenous leader perhaps does not have the connections to the broader Indigenous community members to encourage other Indigenous participants. How do we reach out to other Indigenous community members to invite them in without offending the person that we already have engaged? We're wanting to avoid the impression that we are overstepping their responsibilities. We've left the Indigenous space up to him to organize, but last year it wasn't well executed. How can we proceed? Is there anybody that would have any thoughts on that? Because it's a very good question, but it's very specific. Is there anybody that has any initial thoughts? Mars, how about you?
Yeah, well, a very similar experience I've had where I was organizing an annual festival, Eco Rice Festival, and we wanted to bring in more Indigenous representation. And so I thought back to who I had in my networks. I didn't have anyone in my board, in my team, that was Indigenous per se and was in charge of that. But the way we went around to inviting more Indigenous participation, in my thought initially, it was like, oh, maybe we'll have a gift and we will gift an Indigenous participant on stage and say like we recognize that we're on these lands. And that when I brought that to my friend that was from Salish community, she was like, no, that makes no sense. Just to invite some Indigenous artists to sell their art at the festival. Like we just want to be able to be out there and to sell our art was one of the things she said. And then if I understand the question correctly, it's something about like not wanting to overstep.
Yeah, the person that's already kind of in charge of that element of the festival, they feel like maybe they're not sort of executing well, so they want to invite other Indigenous representation. But they don't want to offend.
I think you just approach that as you would anyone else. Like just because someone is of color doesn't mean they're gonna like perceive anything differently. Like if it was a white person that wasn't doing their job right, like what would you say? I hope that makes sense. I don't know if anyone would agree or disagree with
me
this.
anyway. Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts on Mary Ann's question?
Yeah, I was just going to agree with that last part of what Mars said is, just treat them like you would treat any other employee. And I think it's often what happens. There's sometimes a sensitivity around, oh, this person is BIPOC and I shouldn't offend them. But I think it just comes down to any kind of employer management situation. It's communication, right? Just communicate to them what the needs are. And you can even just suggest, right? You can suggest that, well, you know, we may know so-and-so, could we get in touch with them? So if you want to give them the space, and as you should, to be in that leadership position, you can come to them with suggestions of other connections you have and would like to pursue, and, you know, allow them the space to say, okay, I can consider it or deliberate that. But yeah, I wouldn't be too hesitant on being on my tiptoes. I think, you know, we could take a little bit of criticism, right? It's not just because we're Indigenous or of color that we're going to have all the connections to our networks, and anyone else is also able to explore that.
True. I cannot believe it. We only have 5 minutes left. So I want to use this time in a lightning round. Is that okay with everybody? So the lightning round is talking about the advice you would give to others in the BIPOC community, and the advice about the work that you're doing, obviously, but also about the impact of this fellowship. Let's start with you, Margaret.
Yeah, I think my advice would be just to go for it. I think I was very reluctant to apply for, you know, a fellowship. It just seems very daunting at times. And, you know, I think just having the courage to apply and go for certain things is really important in this sector. And yeah, and things just, you know, sometimes things go right. And it's a wonderful experience to be part of something like the BIPOC fellowship, and you discover something new and you learn something new through the process of it. So yeah.
I need to write that down. Sometimes things go right, which I'm taking that away today. I love that. What about you, Melody? What's your advice today?
So I definitely echo what Margaret has said, but I would say that to, I guess, believe in yourself, and to like believe in yourself, and that if you're really passionate about something, but like don't be afraid to try something new, or don't be like um things can definitely go right if you especially if you put like all your effort into something. Like, for example, if you put all of your effort into your application for this fellowship. Like before, I also found it really daunting when I first read about it on GoodWorks. I thought, oh yeah, fellowship, what is that? Like, is that like a PhD fellowship? That's really like intimidating, right? So I would say, like, but I did put a lot of effort into my application and a lot of thought into the whole project planning process, and things turned out good. So yeah, so just keep believing in yourself, and that and that great things will come your way.
Great advice. Mars, over to you for more advice.
Okay, mine is a little bit like oversaid, but I can't stress this enough. Network. Just network in person, online, like just like I only got as far as I did because of talking to people. Like I wouldn't have heard of the BIPOC fellowship if someone hadn't told me. I wouldn't have applied for the grant that allowed me to do the festival if I hadn't like heard from it online on Facebook. I wouldn't have like nothing would have happened if I hadn't like just talked to people. Don't be shy. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, great advice as well, Nasha. No pressure, because you've heard some great advice already, but last word to Nasha today.
Yeah, I don't think I have any more advice, but yeah, just have confidence in yourself, I think. I think we have a lot to offer, and we shouldn't belittle ourselves for any reason. And I think, yeah, the whole aspect of things being daunting or intimidating is very real, but I don't think you have to be. I think, you know, I think from the other perspective, I can say we're looking for those connections, we're looking for people. And even if everyone can't get the microgrant, at least we've made a connection, right? And that connection can go somewhere else in the future. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I have learned so much today, and there's definitely a few moments that will stick with me. I'm hoping that our wonderful participants feel the same way today. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and to Nasha and Melody, Mars and Margaret, and of course to Addie and Hannah for making today possible. Thank you. Truly, I'm always up for learning, and this is definitely a day that will stick with me. Thanks for being so vulnerable as well, and and raw and just being able to share exactly what was on your mind. So that's I'm grateful for that. This is a wonderful way to, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but end 2024. What? I don't know how that happened. The year has gone by so fast. I'm so grateful to be back in 2025 as your host, and I look forward to engaging with each and every one of you. Thank you so much to all of our guests today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you so much. Make sure